5. I hope you are all well and safe. In today's video we'll continue chapter 1 lesson 3. We'll talk about respiratory system because we had a previous video about the circulatory system, and you learned from the previous video how connected both the circulatory system and the respiratory system are, and you learned that the circulation of the blood depends mainly on the lungs and the heart for its function. And as you learn that the circulation starts with oxygenated blood coming from the lungs into the heart, and then the heart pumps it to the body cells, so the body cells can take oxygen and give off carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, and then the blood now is deoxygenated, which means contains carbon dioxide and not oxygen, so it goes back to the heart, and now we need to get rid of the carbon dioxide, so the deoxygenated blood needs to move back into the lungs so we can breathe out the carbon dioxide and then gain oxygen again, and the circulation continues. So before we start, we need to understand what's the meaning of respiratory system. So we learned that any system is a group of organs that work together to do a certain job. For the respiratory system, it is a group of organs that exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide between your body and the environment, which means you give off carbon dioxide and take oxygen from the surrounding. So in this GIF, you will see how the breathing happens. You will see the lungs when you breathe in and out. Breathe in, out. So how it expands when you breathe in, so you gain oxygen and then you get rid of carbon dioxide. So lungs give oxygen to the blood and takes carbon dioxide, which we call a waste product. A waste product is a product that you do not need. The cell produces it, but it needs to get rid of. We breathe out then and get rid of the carbon dioxide, and we breathe in to get oxygen. In this GIF, you'll learn about the parts of the respiratory system. We start with the larynx, trachea, you have bronchus, and then you have bronchioles, which are smaller branches of the bronchus. We'll start from this part in here. We have a part called pharynx, and pharynx it's a part of the throat. It's a common part between both digestive system and respiratory system, and it's behind the nasal cavity and the mouth. After the pharynx, we have the larynx, which is we call it the voice box, where your voice is produced. And then you have trachea, where the air passes through it into two main branches. Can you see them? We call them bronchi, and a single one of them is called bronchus. As you can see, each bronchi or each bronchus branches into a smaller branches. We call them bronchioles. So these smaller branches into the lungs, this pink part is called the lung, and the other one is lung also. And each lung has a bronchus, and each bronchus branches into bronchioles. So again, we have larynx, but before it we have in this part we call pharynx, and then larynx, and then trachea, and then we have bronchus, and then the bronchus in each lung branches into smaller parts we call bronchioles. So the steps of respiration. How do we breathe? So we breathe in air, obviously, through the nose and the mouth. Actually, some people can breathe from the mouth, and that's why we have pharynx in here. It's common between both of them, between the nose or the nasal cavity and the mouth. And the air moves through your nose and your mouth, and it's actually filtered. Do you know that the air is filtered through your mouth? That's why you have these tiny hairs inside your nose. I'm sorry, did I say mouth? So again, the air is filtered through your nose when you breathe in. That's why you have tiny hairs inside your nose, so it can filter it from any dust or any particles that will harm your body. And then the air is actually warmed by the blood in the pharynx area, so does not go through your body with its cold temperature. Actually, it turns to be warm, so you don't get sick. And after this, the air moves through your pharynx, as we said, which is a common part between the digestive and the respiratory system, and it's a cavity where air passes and also food, just both of them. And then the air moves into trachea, and the trachea goes into two branches, and we call the two main branches in here, we call them bronchi. And the single one of those is called bronchus. And you can see these small branches inside the lungs, and those branches are called bronchioles. But till this part, no gas exchange is going on. The gas exchange starts at the end part, the very end part of the bronchioles, and we call this the alveoli. As you can see, if we zoomed into the end parts of the bronchioles, you find swelling parts called air sacs, and we call this alveoli. And these parts are the ones responsible for exchanging, or the place where gas exchanges happen. So when you look here into a zoomed picture, you can see these rounded things. Those are the red blood cells. You can see them here with a darker color because now they are deoxygenated. They don't contain oxygen, they contain carbon dioxide. And then they turn into a reddish color. Can you see? Yes, because they started to gain oxygen. So inside the alveoli, that's what happens. What happens is the red blood cells starts to give off carbon dioxide and gain oxygen. Can you see these? This is oxygen going into, transported by the red blood cells, and that's why they turn into red color, so the circulation can continue. So from this part we learned that the alveoli are where gases are exchanged between the blood and the lungs. Here's another image, or another picture, another GIF of how respiration goes on and how when you breathe in and you breathe out, and you breathe in, breathe out. Here we zoomed into the alveoli, which are the air sacs where gas exchanges happen. You'll see here getting rid of carbon dioxide and gaining oxygen, and that's what you all need to learn about the respiratory system. In this video you'll see how your lungs work. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. So at the end, the parts of the respiratory system are so easy to learn if you learn the steps. We start with the nose, with the mouth, then we have the pharynx, the larynx, which is the voice box, then you have trachea, and the trachea branches into two main branches. We call them bronchi, and a single one is called bronchus, and each bronchi has smaller branches. We call them bronchioles. And at the very end of each bronchiole we have alveoli, which are air sacs where gas exchange happens. Thank you for watching, and I hope you got all the information you needed, and if you need anything you can ask me anytime. I hope you are well, and wait for the worksheet and the summary for this part of the lesson. Thank you so much.